My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. The old timer there. Try to keep it short. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, and it stinks. So by now, I'm sure, if you're really at all interested in the submersible disaster, the sinking of the Titan, the implosion, where 5 people lost their lives, and these are all like awesome people. You know, even Stockton was an okay guy. First of all, I want to point your attention to a couple of things. For one thing, they said that, they knew that the sub was destroyed pretty early on, basically on Sunday, the 18th. And it took several days for them to basically come out and say, yeah, well, it's really been destroyed and we know everybody's dead. Don't really know what that's all about. Probably, if I had to guess, it would be that that might have given them time to go down and harvest any parts, any pieces of the hull that might happen to be floating around. If that's possible, they were able to do that. Why do I say that? What doomed this submersible right off the bat is the fact that any submarine craft that is that it has a cylindrical geometry that can withstand pressures at 12,500 feet, if that was a military submarine, would be classified. So Stockton Rush is making regular trips to the Titanic. Well, I guess they made about 5 trips, before the implosion, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm under the impression that the devil is in the details. Several trips were made before this finally imploded. But if you look through all the stuff, there's a common thread that you will notice. They talk about the 100-foot dive where Stockton was flustered by a problem, and that they would have problems, regular problems. And just from my, and I have studied engineering myself, it looks like sabotage. Now, having said all that, just let me break in for a second. This is a non-English speaking, and I'm not sure what language I'm hearing here. Some people seem to think that it's Norwegian or something. Could be. Oh wow, he's got all breakdown. Gated ventral. Okay. Wow. All right. This came out on July 1st. So this is a week after. It's after the good bit after the implosion. So this person here, GS Academy, it's non-English speaking. I thought maybe it might be Farsi at first. I'm not really good at languages necessarily to picking them out. Some yes and some no. But in any case, this is the first time that I actually saw a transcript of the communication, and this is all you need. I'm going to put this link in the description. That's all you need. It's not in English, but he basically, there's some little digressions and stuff, but he basically clips through the whole thing pretty quickly, and you get a pretty good image of what happened. So I think this sub has been sabotaged repeatedly. And the reason I say that is just basically because of the cadence of the way things happen, the way the events went down in this sub. So now we're getting to the point where there's going to be FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, thrown in from third parties and things like that. But basically, my understanding of it is they launched, and the sub was hauling ass down to the bottom. It seemed like it might have been overloaded with weight, and they got down there really quick. They got down into the 3,000 meter mark, 3,400 meters in there, and this is like a 38 3,500-meter dive that they got down to 3,400 meters, 3,500 meters, and that's 5 minutes. And they had to slow their descent, so they dropped some weight. And the weight was difficult coming off. They had to do some stuff to try to get it off. So then they were getting messages from the RTM, the real-time hull health monitoring system, and so. But it's all in here. You can just. The link for this is in the description. I would look at it. So they get some alarms, and then it's all red. It's at one point in particular. So they go to drop they get down to a certain level. They're still dropping, so they decide to drop the cage, the rack, which is where they have the weights suspended from the bottom of the submersible. So they drop this, what you see here, this, there's no other way to describe it. It's like a rack. It's like landing gear. They drop that. So they drop that, and they had a little bit of an improvement. They start hauling ass back up to the top. And at some point along here, he has to switch power buses, electrical buses, because switch to B, reading red on A power bus. I switched to B at 3,457 meters. 3,457 meters. Okay, that's, multiply that by 3, and that's how many feet it is. So you're talking about 10,000 feet down in a cylindrical submersible. So the fact that they were able to get, and there was a dive previous to this dive where the sub actually lost power and it was stuck on the bottom for a while, and it was like a 20-hour dive. People were sleeping in the sub and stuff, and he's got this crew of seasoned adventurists. And they're like unbothered by that kind of stuff, by the how cramped the sub is and all that kind of stuff. But basically, the fact that a cylindrical submarine manufactured in somebody's garage survived a dive to 12,500 feet. Hate to say it, but that's probably a design that a few navies out there, like naval intelligence, and maybe even the MUD, is intelligence, people like that. I'm just throwing that out there. We can talk about that later. They might not want that to be widely published. So, being that that's what it is, you're only going to be working, you should only be working for classified applications. So, he's screwed up front right from the beginning. I mean, I'm looking at that, I'm like, wow, 12,500 feet, and this rinky-dink thing. And now, the other thing, too, is, I'm like, geez, there's not enough ass on that submersible to be like trying to dive down to the. I mean, tabling the idea that the feasibility of the design, tabling all that. There's not enough ass on this thing to carry 2 people down, let alone 5, down to the Titanic at 12,500 feet. Where the pressure is 6,550 some odd pounds per square inch. And, James Cameron will tell you that water ingress into the material matrix and so forth is not good, and that carbon fiber that's made for aircraft and things like that, that has a shelf life, because I don't know if it gets eaten, you know, or oxidized or something. You have to keep it in a freezer. So, you know, that discussion, you're not talking about paper thin carbon here. You're talking about they started with a steel spool and then started wrapping that. I assume it looks like stainless steel to me. A stainless steel spool, and they wrap that shit this thick. So Stockton Rush didn't think his sub would go down that deep. He fucking knew it. Watch his body language. And he's an engineer. And these other guys are engineers. You've got carbon fiber and a carbon fiber matrix of resin and other materials. It's that goddamn thick. It's like, yeah, that's plausible. And it's not a big sub, you know. But my whole issue with it is, and he had, it looks like, you know, the feeling. Feelings are kind of worthless, really. But it's a feeling. It's a, you know, because having done things in my life and been sabotaged before, it has a feeling of, you know, ongoing sabotage. Because that thing went down to 12,500 feet. That's a breach of security. That sub should be classified. And this guy's out playing around with it, maybe thumbing his nose. You know what I mean? Well, you know, you don't, you know, they say you're not supposed to do it, you know, and stuff like that. There are other materials you could use. And all of a sudden I started thinking, wow, you know, shit, goddamn. There might be, you know, ways of being able to have, you know, regular 10-passenger service with, you know, knowing what I know about this, yeah, regular 10-passenger service down to the Titanic with the window for every seat. You know what I mean? Aircraft seating, you know what I'm saying? Happy cart going up and down the aisle, you know, the whole nine. The problem is that this sub here doesn't have enough ass on it in terms of it should have ballast tanks, you know, and it should have a more robust, you know, powertrain, ballast, and all that, you know, should have more on it. But the whole fact that it is as spare as it is, you know, as Spartan as it is sort of like, you know, Stockton saying, yeah, fuck you. He knows it'll work. He doesn't think it, he knows it. And, you know, when you know that the shit is that thick, you know, that matrix is that thick. Me personally, I would have done some sort of Stirling process, you know, got the bubbles out of it and all that kind of stuff, and maybe even looked at some other materials, you know, like Kevlar and stuff, and then had maybe duty zones, layers where you wouldn't get water ingress and all this kind of stuff. Windows would be good, you know, that's a whole, you know, but that's at those pressures, it's not trivial. It's not trivial. So trivializing, and especially don't want to trivialize anybody's death, but that is an achievement, that they took that thing at all, that they had 5 people in it before, and it got stuck on the bottom near the Titanic. So this thing got stuck on the bottom for a long time in a previous dive with 5 people on it at 12,500 feet and survived that. And then went down this time. So let me get to the conspiracy theory thing. If me personally, I started thinking about it, if I was gonna sabotage this rig, I'd take a small cable and tie it to that rack, you know, bond it to that rack somewhere, overload it with weight, and subtly put that cable up and maybe bolt it to that back, the one that nobody can see that's covered up with the cowling, to that back dome, right? Or bond it to that dome some kind of way. because what they were doing is, as that bus was heating up, they were going down and down and down and down. They'd shed some weight. It was hard to do. They let go of the rack. It was okay, but they were still like, and turned around, and they were kind of going up, but they were like really not making a lot of headway. I mean, it was taking a long time to go, you know, I guess it was maybe 10 meters, not very far. It was tens of meters or something like that. And he's got to hammer down for the surface, right? Pouring everything he can into, is so much that the A bus burned up. Well, it didn't burn up on him, but it was hot. So he switched to B, and he's hammered down. So imagine now that he's going up like this, if that's how it is. I don't know. I'm looking at the trajectory here. If it might be, you know, angled up like this, and he subtly, he doesn't know that there's a rack hanging off. Now, this is totally theory here, because I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't have any video evidence or anything. But imagine that rack is hanging from a cable off of that back bowl. And then eventually it just, you know, produces enough pressure to cause it to fail. You know. But bottom line is, yeah, there's not enough ass on it. And so, you know, you look at these things, and it's a puzzle. You know, you scratch your head and you're like, you know, this guy is, you know, say he's really cocky. He's, you know, cocky and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I can see how they might have a lot of confidence in it, just knowing that the hull is this thick of carbon fiber, and it's really the diameter is not that great. You know, if he did the math, and the guys that the people that went on this, they were on this sub, are experts. They're like not lightweights when it comes to science and engineering, I'm sure. So, and they voluntarily got on that thing. So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to put this video also in the description. This is a personal experience. It's a little video. This was an aborted dive, and I can't remember the guy's name. DALLMYD. Nice cat. He showed up with his girlfriend. They're having a nice time. He gets on. I want to just show you this one bit here, and then I'm going to cap it. I'm going to show you where they start tightening it up. Right about here. Turn the sound off because I don't want to steal the guy's video. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here they are, bolting them in. You look around to the back, right? Here these guys are. They're bolting them in. And I'm looking at this setup here. There's something about this part here where he's stepping in. He's getting in the very front. He's stepping up in this thing. Damn it. There you go. I'm looking at that. So you see how thick that is right there? Right? It's as thick as a vault. By the way, everything that James Cameron said about carbon fiber and all that stuff, and how it's really designed to sort of, it's the tensile strength is greater than the pressure strength and all that stuff, all that's true, of course. I looked at this, and it was just a gut reaction. I don't really get that now. See how thick that is right there? Yeah, that's there, you know. But I looked at this. I looked at the size of this thing and this guy getting in here. I looked at that and I said, hell no. Ain't no way in hell. That's when I first saw this, when I first started watching it. And I was looking at this here, them clamping that thing down. You look at the demeanor around the sub, and I'm sorry, you know, Stockton Rush doesn't look like, I think it'll work. You know, look, okay. Well, one thing is that somebody who has total confidence in their design and stuff, they're not going to be really running the sub. They're going to have their cousin Bob running it. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody like that. And they did have some kids doing stuff, doing some work, doing some design, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of back and forth about that. But I'm just looking at the size of this thing, and it just ain't no way in hell I'm getting in that. That's what I said originally, but it's this right here. Okay? Gotta stop it for a second. Just to reiterate, there's the thickness. There's the thickness of that sub right there. So, Stockton Rush is not an idiot. He's a trained engineer, and he said he had enough faith in this thing, in this submersible, to get it, and the rest of these people did as well. You know, in this particular case, here I guess they're all alive except for might be Stockton Rush, obviously, rest in peace, is not there. So, but all this stuff about you know, carbon fiber and water ingress and tensile strength versus shear strength and pressure strength and all that stuff. I'm not up on my mechanical engineering terminology, so you'll forgive me, but all that's true. However, there's a lot of it there. And me, personally, I would have done something to, you know, some sort of Stirling process to get the bubbles out and whatever. And, you know, like there's a lot of different kinds of materials. But this got me started thinking. And I'll be honest with you, I started working on a provisional patent pretty much right after I figured out how deep they went in this particular sub. I started thinking, dang, okay, because a dude built a cylindrical submarine in his garage that went down 12,500 feet in the ocean and was down there for hours and hours and hours. So maybe I'm a small thinker, I don't know, but I looked at that and I said, something about that works. And the other part of it was, you know, I thought, well, shit, man, we could probably pursue that because everybody's running the other way. On the other hand, the problem with working on it is that shit right there is classified. Guarantee it. Another little tidbit, notice how this submarine, the basic elements of this submersible, cap on one end, cap on the other with a cylinder, and it looks like a tic-tac. Stockton Rush was collaborating with at least one person at NASA. So, anyway, the dog's barking. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. Thanks for watching. Let's rock.